All right, guys, a little something different today considering the fact that we don't have a UFC card this weekend. We get a weekend off. And then next week we have Bobby Green and Grant Dawson, which is a pretty solid card. It's a good card to break down and a pretty good card to bet on, but there's a lot of close fights. So I'm not going to talk about that a week in advance because I haven't had time to watch the tape. I'm sure by the sound of my voice, you guys can tell I'm still super, super sick. So if I sound off or if it sounds like muffled or whatever, it's not the microphone, it's me. But I still want to get this out before the Contender Series tomorrow. I haven't done any Contender Series breakdowns on my podcast, so I guess better late than never. But since there's no fight card this weekend, I figured looking at the Contender Series bouts would be a good way to kick it off. This is a good card. This is a card that I think we're going to see a lot of quick finishes, or we're going to see a lot of long, drawn-out wars from every fight on the card. There's one fight in particular I think is going to be a pretty quick finish regardless. But a lot of these fights, I think both guys and girls, in one case, are going to just stand in the middle and just bomb away on each other. And there's going to be some technical advantages for either fighter, but this is a really solid card to look at in terms of a betting perspective, even though it's a little difficult. But yeah, I think this is a great card, so we're going to kick it off. And we're going to start off with the first bout of the evening in the bantamweight division. You have Vinicius de Oliveira taking on Victor Madrigal. The one thing I've noticed, especially from the Madrigal side, is when you look at the betting line, Vinicius Oliveira is like a 3-1 favorite. He's minus 260, minus 270. Actually, he's a 4-1 favorite, minus 385. Plus 285 comeback on the side of Madrigal. And although I think Oliveira should be a favorite, I think that's a big overcorrection on the line because both of these guys, whether it's Madrigal or Oliveira, we've seen them get flatlined, we've seen them get chinned, we've seen them get knocked out before. And when you have two fighters who have been chinned in the past, you know that that's going to be a vulnerability regardless of which side that you're on. Oliveira is a little bit more wild than Madrigal. I feel like Madrigal is the better grappler in this matchup with the submissions, with the top control, with the ground game. I feel like that goes to Madrigal, but on the feet, I think the power, the finishing upside, the awkwardness all go to Vinicius Oliveira. I think Oliveira has one-hitter-quitter knockout power, where if Madrigal gets you out of there, he can knock you out. He does have power, but it's kind of like volume striking, putting more combinations together, and just eventually making you wilt and breaking you on the pressure. I feel like if Madrigal wants to win this fight, the best path to victory is to use his wrestling, use his grappling, try to lock up an armbar. I mean, as you can see on the screen right here, in a fight with Christian Quinones, who's in the UFC, he was able to jump on his back and lock up an armbar from his back and then pull his arm back and pretty much, have it 100%. But they went back and forth. There was some good grappling exchanges. Madrigal can get taken down. He can get controlled as well. The finishing upside, like I said, is probably on the side of Oliveira. But we've seen him get chinned in the past as well. He fought a guy, Ali... Let me think. I can't think of the guy's name. Give me 1 second. Ali something. Ali Taleb. Ali Taleb. He fought him back at UAE Warriors in July of 2022, and he got knocked unconscious. It was one shot right to the chin, dropped, and finished. Oliveira is a guy who looks like he's very easily hittable. Like, he doesn't keep his hands up. He's kind of using the dart in and dart out, hip bumps, angle shifts, kind of like a Dominic Cruz, like a Davison Figueiredo Dominic Cruz hybrid, but not as high level. He's very in and out, moving his hips, shifting in with his hip bumps, backing up, changing his stances, and that makes it look like you're more easily hittable, but at the same time, when you try to close that pocket and get into range is when he can land his big combinations, his big boxing combinations, land the hands on your chin and knock you out. But he does fight a very interesting style. It's very fan-friendly in the side of Vinicius Oliveira, but at the same time, he's very easily hittable and could get knocked out by the fighter who I would say is more well-rounded as a mixed martial artist, a little bit less wild, but I don't think he has as much power as Oliveira. So it's really a tough fight to call. I don't think that the betting line should be a 5-1 favorite on the side of Oliveira. I think that's crazy. I do think that if there's a big knockout, it would come from Oliveira. If there's a scramble that ends up in somebody getting caught in a submission, I think that comes from Madrigal. If I'm looking at it from a betting perspective, I would never put 5-1 on a guy on the Contender Series. I mean, you saw that with Bruno Ferreira and not Bruno Ferreira. Was it Bruno Ribeiro? The guy on the Contender Series who knocked out like that 6-1 favorite in the first round. I don't think that you should ever lay chalk on a guy who's a 5-1 favorite, especially on the Contender Series. Because as you've seen throughout the season, man, Contender Series is where, yes, some favorites get it done, but you just really never know what you're expecting. I would say probably the under 2.5. Under 2.5 rounds when that comes out would be the best play. Overall, from a pick perspective, I feel like the smart pick is probably to go with Oliveira. But I'm going to take a shot on the underdog in Madrigal because I've seen both guys get finished. I've seen both guys get flatlined. I think my style more in particular, like which fighter I gravitate towards, I like the style of Oliveira more. I think he might be, the more exciting fighter, but I don't necessarily know 100% that he's the better fighter. I mean, you look at the records, you have 18-3 for Lokdog in Vinicius Oliveira, and you have 15-4 for Madrigal. So there's not that much of a difference in the record. And when you're giving me a 3-1 underdog, sometimes I think you just got to take the shot. So I would say either the under 2.5 rounds, if it's slight even or plus money, I would take the under 2.5. If not, I think this is a dog play, all day. I know a lot of people are heavy on Oliveira. I think he's a good fighter. He's got good knockout power. He's got a very exciting style, but the betting line is throwing me off. And I don't think that that's something that you should heavily, heavily bet on, especially in this case on the Contender Series. So give me Victor Madrigal to win via a second-round submission. I think he finds the back of Oliveira in a weird scramble where he gets wild, jumps on his back, and takes his neck. So give me Victor Madrigal as the almost 3-1 underdog, plus 285, to defeat Vinicius Oliveira via a second-round submission. Up next, you have a fight in the women's flyweight division between Carly Judas, who comes in at 2-0, taking on Ernesta Karakai, who comes back with a record of 4-0-1. This was the fight I was talking about, man. I think this might be your best fight of the night. I think this is a very, very technical matchup. I think both of these girls are going to come in and strike it out on the feet. I expect for the majority of this fight, I expect it to play out on the feet in a kickboxing style of matchup. Judas, in the one fight I watched on tape for Judas, she's very technical. She walked through her opponent. She's got a very good lead head kick, very good back power kicks, good shots to the body. She's got good shot selection and puts her shots together very well. That's the one thing I know about Carly Judas, and what I've seen is that she picks her shots very well. She lands good counters. She has good in and out footwork. She can land lead head kicks. She reminds me a little bit of Josephine Knudsen, but a little bit more finishing instinct. And when I look at Karakai, I see a little bit of similarity in that style as well. She's very tall, long, and rangy for her weight class. She likes to strike from the outside. She uses her boxing combinations very well, puts that lead hook together, puts, 4, 5, 6 punch combinations together. But if she's not really on the forward pressure, she'll kind of just stand there and won't really do too much. I haven't seen too much grappling from either girl, but I would expect if somebody's going to look to use their wrestling, push the other girl up against the cage, use the over-under position, take them down, I think that probably comes from the side of Carly Judas. But again, she's only like 3-0 as a professional MMA fighter. I'm really surprised that she's on the Contender Series, but somebody in the higher-ups, whether it's Dana White, Joe Silva, they see something in this girl. And, you got to take that into consideration when breaking the fight down. I get it. I think she's very, very technical. She's very good. She puts her combinations together well. She doesn't overcommit. Like, you're not going to see her bum rush in with her chin in the air and throw 4, 5, 6 punches to where she's going to get caught. But fighting a tall, long, rangy girl like Karakai, she's going to be at a disadvantage in terms of the length and the reach. She's going to be, kind of sitting on the outside unless she can close that distance, unless she can close that range, and unless she can really put it on her and, get in her face and make it a brawl. You look at the reach. I don't see the reach on here, actually, so forget what I was going to say. But, the longer, taller fighter and the fighter who's going to use her range more is Karakai. But the fighter who's going to put more combinations together, the fighter with the higher finishing upside, the fighter with the higher variety in her combinations, I believe is Carly Judas. I don't love this fight from a betting side, but if I was going to bet, I'll tell you right now, I would probably take Carly Judas. But if you were on the side of Karakai, I don't blame you. I think the fight probably does go to a decision, But you never know. I mean, it's always better to play the over 2.5s when you're looking at women's MMA. So probably the smart play would be the over 2.5 if they give you that line for this fight. But from an overall pick perspective, I just feel like I've seen a little bit more upside from Judas. I feel like she can push the pace. I feel like her combinations are a little bit faster, but at the same time, Karakate's long, tall, rangy. She can stick behind her jab. She can use her boxing combinations well, put her kicks on the end of it, and I think this is going to be a very close and competitive fight. You know, when I watched the tape on Judas, I was like, oh, this is Carly Judas all day. But then when I went back and looked at the Karakate footage, you know, she's gone 5 rounds before, and that's something I think you do have to take into consideration. You know, sometimes she will slow down, but she can put the pace on later in fights. She can still put her combinations together and use her footwork in the 5th round. In a fight where she got grappled, taken down, controlled by another opponent, she was able to come back, land some combinations on the feet, but a lot of people believe she probably did lose that fight. I can't think of the girl's name. I mean, I just watched the tape today, but a lot of people thought she probably lost that due to giving up ground control, giving up takedowns, but she landed the much better strikes and had much better output on the feet compared to her opponent. But I don't think she'll have a higher output than Carly Judas in this matchup. I think it's close. I think it's tough. I don't love it from a bet perspective, but I am going to take Carly Judas to defeat Karakate to defeat Ernesta Karakate, I should say, via 29-28 unanimous decision. I think it does go the distance. I could see Karakate winning because this isn't an easy fight. She has good striking, good combinations, good footwork. I just don't think she has enough output to deal with a girl like Judas. So give me Carly Judas, 29-28 unanimous decision. All right, next fight up is in the featherweight division between a training partner of Cub Swanson and Dan Argueta in Danny Silva, coming in with a record of 7 victories and 1 defeat, taking on Angel Pacheco, who comes back with an identical record of 7 victories and 1 defeat. Pacheco's lone loss comes via decision. Danny Silva's 1 loss also comes via decision. Neither man has ever been finished. Between Danny Puma Silva and, excuse me, I can't talk today, Angel Pacheco. I think this is a very, very solid matchup. The only thing is, you can't find a ton of tape on Pacheco. You can watch his last fight in CFFC where, you know, he got dropped early in the fight against Vilson Nidrigoni. He got dropped early and almost looked like he was out of it. The opponent jumped on him, tried to take him out with some ground and pound, but Pacheco was able to survive, come back, drop his opponent, and then I believe got the victory done via submission. Yeah, rear naked choke in the 2nd round. Before that, he has some wins in CFX, NFC. He lost in NFC to Nathan Williams via unanimous decision. He has some wins in LFA via TKO, KO. All 7 of Pacheco's wins come via finish. So the guy's going to be forward pressure. He's going to be getting in your face. He's going to be looking to take you out. And that's how Pacheco fights. In your face, light on the feet. You know, uses decent footwork, uses the management of range pretty well. Can get caught in his own right as well, but, you know, he's going to be looking to push that pace and finish you. With Danny Silva, you have 5 wins by KO, 2 by decision, but again, another fighter who's never been finished. When I look at the tape on both guys, I feel like the more technical fighter is Danny Silva. I feel like he has just a little bit more composure on the feet. He moves well in and out. He's another pressure fighter. This is 2 fighters who are going to look to get in each other's face, push that pace and pressure, push the opponent back, and, you know, put him out. Both these guys are looking for finishes. Almost all of the wins for Silva by finish, and, you know, every single win for Pacheco by finish. You know, I feel like the better fighter overall is Danny Silva, just from what I've seen. I feel like he's sharper. He's more technical when he puts his combinations together. He doesn't love pressure, though. I mean, I've seen him kind of get backed up and get pressured in his own right. You know, get kind of picked apart in one of his fights in LFA. I believe it was the fight with Kanan Waika. Yeah, this was it. Kanan Kawaye in LFA, LFA 148 back in December of 2022. He got pushed back. He got hit a lot. He got caught. He got clipped. But, you know, Pacheco gets clipped as well. He gets hit in his own right. So I think this is going to be a fight where both fighters are going to push forward. Both fighters are going to get in each other's face. But I just feel like Danny Silva has more to offer. You know, in that third round, in a fight where he clearly lost the first round, the second round was close. I mean, he pretty much 10-8'd Karakai. It was a 10-9, but it looked like a 10-8. Took him down, pushed forward, got the takedowns, landed some strikes, pushed him up against the cage, was beating him up, landed some good body shots. Puma Silva has good body work, mixes up his combinations, rips to the body with good left and right hooks, punctuates his combinations with low kicks, but he doesn't have the best striking defense and he can get hit. The same with Pacheco, but Pacheco kind of keeps his hands up high in a traditional guard, kind of like a Shuto box style, but he does move his feet. He moves laterally, moves in and out, and he's also going to be on the forward, on the forward foot and putting that pressure on to get a finish in his own right. I think somebody definitely gets finished, but I think there's also a case where both fighters are so durable and both fighters carry good cardio into the later rounds that maybe it does go to a decision and it's just a back and forth war. I think this fight's going to be a war from start to finish no matter who wins. But when it comes to a pick, I'm going to side with Danny Silva. I just feel like he's sharper. He picks his shots better. He lands better combinations. And I would say that Pacheco is better with head kicks and body kicks, while Silva is better at working the low kicks and then combinations up top with his boxing. Reminds me a little bit of a Shuto box fighter in his own right as well. Pushing forward, getting on that front foot, backing you up, just pop, 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 rip, pop, pop, boom, pop, 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 boom, and rip into the body. That's kind of what I see from Danny Silva, and the fact that he lasted with the cardio in that fight where he was losing the first round, getting outstruck, and he, probably lost the first two, which is why he lost that decision. He was able to keep that composure. He was able to put that forward pressure on and break his opponent down the stretch. Even though he survived, he still was able to break him and carry that cardio. And that's something that I really like to see from a fighter, where if it's in the third round and it's a close fight, I feel like the fighter who can push forward, who can land better combinations, who's really going to go for it in a third round if the fight is close, is on the side of Danny Silva. So that's why I'm taking Danny Silva to win this fight. I'm going to take him via a third round TKO. I think probably fight doesn't go the distance is a good play, but I like Danny Silva on the money line. Even though he's minus 200, minus 210, I think he's sharper. I think he's cleaner. I think he puts his combinations together better. His defense isn't the greatest, but I just see him being the sharper, cleaner, more technical fighter, and with the pace and pressure to push in that third round if it's close. I think he can push a harder pace than Pacheco in that third round. So give me Danny Silva, third round TKO. All right, up next, it's a battle in the heavyweight division on the Contender Series between Alexander Soldotkin, who comes in with a record of 14 victories and 3 defeats, taking on Mario Paisone, who comes in with an undefeated professional MMA record of 7 victories with no defeats. I'm going to be honest, I could not find much of any tape on Paisone. I saw one fight where he took the guy down, ground and pounded him, and got him out of there in the first round. And I think that was from like 4 or 5 months ago. So I don't know if that's when the fight took place. I don't know if that was, an earlier fight that they just recently uploaded. But, he's a heavier set guy. He's more soft than Soldotkin. But what I've seen from Soldotkin is that the guy can wrestle. He can grapple. He's got good submission skills. But he can also put one on your chin and take you out early. I mean, the guy has a ton of first-round finishes. Soldotkin does. And with Mario Paisone, this is a guy who has gone to decision a few times, I believe. If I can get it to pull up real quick. He's won 1 decision, and the rest of his wins came in the first round. So pretty much what you see from that is he can win a decision. It was a unanimous decision, but a lot of this guy's finishes come in round 1, and 6 out of his 7 wins are by TKO. So he takes him down, ground and pound. He can land some good shots on the feet as well. But what I see from this fight is that Soldotkin is just a better fighter. He has more experience. He's been into the second round. He's been into the third round. He's lost 3 fights. He's been submitted 1 time, which can, maybe raise some red flags if you think that Paisone is going to be able to take him down. Or Piazone is going to be able to take him down and ground and pound him. He's heavier, he's thicker. He's going to be able to use his weight better on the ground, I feel like. But Soldotkin is a sambo practitioner. I believe he might be a sambo world champion, so he's no stranger to getting on the ground, using his wrestling, using his grappling. He has the much better striking from what I could see, but like I said, I didn't see too much tape. I'm going to take Alexander Soldotkin just because, number one, I have more things to work with. I have more things to look at when it comes to breaking down the fight. He has a lot of first-round finishes. He has submission victories in his own right. All of his submission victories actually come via armbar, which I think is something that's pretty impressive. But yeah, I mean, 12 out of 14 wins by way of finish. Only been finished once out of 3 losses. So one finish in a loss in 17 fights and 12 finishes out of 14 wins. He's a very talented fighter. He's got heavy power. If he lands on your chin with one big shot, he can put you out. I think he's going to come in and just crush Paisone. Like, could I see him taking him down, wrestling him, and maybe ground and pounding him? I mean, maybe, but I think Soldotkin's just going to come forward, close the distance, stuff like one takedown, and then just bum rush him up against the cage with quick hands, a boxing combination, crack him on the chin, and get him out of there. So give me Alexander Soldotkin to win in round 1. I don't love the bet, because he is like a minus 400 favorite, but if I was going to play it, I would play fight to end in round 1 or Soldotkin in rounds 1 or 2. But that's my pick, but my pick is going to be Alexander Soldotkin via first round TKO. And now we move to the main event of the Contender Series in a battle between Danny Barlow and Raheem Forrest. This is taking place in the 170-pound welterweight division, and what a main event this is going to be. When I looked at Danny Barlow, and I went into these fights blind for the majority because I didn't know many of these fighters at all, but when I watched Danny Barlow, he's a very technical southpaw. He has a beautiful straight left hand. He moves in and out of range. He dictates range very well, and he can snipe you with that left cross. He can snipe you with the left head kick, the left body kick. He throws his kicks kind of on an upward trajectory instead of turning his hips over, which is, very common for high-level strikers, and he really reminds me of a Leon Edwards. I'm not saying he's at that level of a Leon Edwards. He's not as technical as a Leon Edwards. I would say he probably has more power in his punches than Edwards, but just the way he fights, on the outside, moving in and out, landing good counters, sniping with that straight left hand. I mean, we've seen him knock out a fighter with just one big straight left hand, crushed him. He jumped on him and got a TKO. But for the most part, Barlow's going to want to keep it technical, keep it clean, keep the fighter on the outside, use his lateral movement, kind of cut him off, get that outside foot against the orthodox fighter, land that left body kick, left head kick, feint the left cross, throw the kick behind it, throw the kick, shoot it down with the cross and the pulley effect, left body kick, pull back, left cross, right hook, jab, right hook, left body kick. He's going to be looking to just pick you apart. He switches between southpaw and orthodox pretty well, but for the most part, he's just going to be looking to find the range for that straight left hand, moving in and out of range and picking his shots. He's a very clean, technical fighter. When I see a guy like Raheem Forrest, this guy is a buzzsaw, man. He has decent grappling. He's gotten submissions in his career as well. Out of his 7 victories, he has 4 knockouts, 1 submission, and 2 decisions, but he goes for submissions all the time, even if he doesn't get them. He's not really like the best jiu-jitsu practitioner, but he's a very good wrestler, is Rambo Raheem Forrest, or Raheem Rambo Forrest. He's going to be looking to use his wrestling, push the opponents up against the cage, take them down, ground and pound them. He's got good wrestling. That's one thing I will say. He does have knockouts in his career as well. I mean, he can put hands on his opponents. He's got very, very clean hands. Last fight he fought was at CFFC 121 back in July of 2023. This year, when he knocked out his opponent in Treston Vines via first round KO. Now, Treston Vines is a common opponent of his opponent in Danny Barlow, and I believe he finished him in the first round via TKO. I'm not 100% certain, but I will check that out. Let's see. I could have sworn that Treston Vines fought his opponent. Maybe I'm wrong. Was it in the amateur scene? Maybe. No? Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I thought they had fought the same opponent, but maybe I was looking at the wrong thing. But either way, I'm looking at this fight, man. I think Raheem is going to have the bigger one punch knockout power. He's going to be the more aggressive fighter. He's going to be looking to use his wrestling, looking to get the takedowns. He does have decent jiu-jitsu, like I said, but he kind of just rushes and like berserks his way into certain positions. Like he'll go for arm bars, he'll go for chokes. He has been submitted in the past. He got submitted in the first round by Charlie Radke, got taken down, controlled from the top, and eventually submitted. He gives up his back. He gives up positions where if he was fighting a good grappler in Danny Barlow, I think that could be an issue where, he gives up a bad position. Barlow jumps on his neck and takes him out via submission. But I think Barlow, or left hand to God, is going to want to just keep it on the feet. He's got one win via submission, but like I said, for the most part, pick him apart, land the straight left hand, use the right hook, left body kick, left head kicks, the 1-2 down the middle, circle off to the rear side, find the rear side angle, and crack him with the straight left hand. The more technical striker is Danny Barlow. If this fight stays at distance and range, it's going to be Barlow's fight all day. But if Barlow gives up takedowns, if he gets pushed up against the cage by Raheem, if Raheem breaks off the clinch with some big strikes, I do think he can put a guy like Danny Barlow out. He's never been knocked out before, but at the same time, I feel like Raheem has the power. And I think the best path to victory for a guy like Raheem is to close off that distance and range if he can get into close enough range. If he can close the pocket well enough, he can get those takedowns, push Danny Barlow up against the cage, use the doubles, use the singles, but don't necessarily jump on submissions because you can give the opponent a chance to scramble and work their way back up to the feet and get back to the center of the cage, which is where Barlow is going to want to have this fight, because if he can keep that distance in range, he's going to win this fight every day. But, Raheem's got to close that distance, land big combinations, big straights, big hooks, big uppercuts. He's got quick hands, but he's not the most technical. The more technical fighter is Danny Barlow, but Rambo Raheem Forrest is a tough out in this fight, and he has the power to crack Barlow on the chin and hurt him. I am going to go with Danny Barlow to win this fight. I feel like he's going to be able to keep it on the feet at the range and distance he wants to. I do think that Raheem is going to give some opportunities to his opponent to, land a big counter strike and hurt him. But I also think Raheem is going to be given opportunities when he closes that distance to get those takedowns, to push the opponent up against the cage, to land some big shots and hurt him. And I think this is a very close fight. I don't love it from a betting perspective. Originally, I was going to go with Raheem, but the more I think about it, I think I'm going to go with the longer, taller fighter. I mean, we saw what Danny Allen was able to do on the last episode of the Contender series, is almost a 3-1 underdog, and it was by him using the distance, the reach, the range, and, not allowing Jacoby Jones to close that distance off and land the big combinations and power that he possesses. So give me Danny Barlow to win this fight. I'll go with a decision. I'm going to go Barlow via decision, but on a betting perspective, man, this is a close fight. I don't know who I'm going to bet. I'll probably have exposure to this fight either way. My pick is going to be Danny Barlow, but I wouldn't be surprised if I flip and end up betting on Raheem Forrest just because of his power and his wrestling background that I think he can control the fight with if he's able to get Barlow up against the cage and work his takedowns. But the pick's going to be Danny Barlow via decision over Raheem Forrest.